Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 10 of our STEM Speakers Series. Today, joined by a colleague of ours, Mr. Stephen Matthews, who has brought with him another very special guest today, Laura. Laura, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fine, thanks. How are you guys?
Hi, Laura.
Great.
Hi.
Well, thank you for joining, Laura. So can you tell us what you do?
Sure. So I am part of Disney's technology management rotation program. So you do 4 jobs over 2 years, 6 months each, and you get to see 4 different technology departments of Disney to get a better sense of, to connect the dots across different lines of businesses and to become a stronger leader. But most recently, right now I'm on an innovation team on the studio side. So we do innovations in the way that we make movies, in the way that we do movie premieres, the way we create our content. But before this, I was in Imagineering, which is the department of engineers who do the rides and attractions for Disneyland, Disney World, and all the other parks across the globe. So I was in their research and development department working in a lab with a kooky inventor. And I think that is why Stephen recommended me for this call.
Laura, can I ask you, how many, you say you go into 4 different tech areas over 2 years. How many tech areas are there in Disney? This sounds really silly question.
No, it's not a bad question at all. So Disney's business can kind of be broken down into 2 major branches, which is the parks and consumer products. So all of the physical stuff that you might interact with Disney, and then all of the TV, movies, or content, etc. That Disney produces. And so within those 2 branches, there are more divisions and subdivisions. It's a very big company. But each of those areas needs tech and different kinds of tech. So when it came to working as an Imagineer, it was a lot about physical technology. So a lot of hardware, doing crazy things like levitation, working on animatronics, robotics. And then on the studio side now, I deal more with the technology that we use to create really cool visual effects, or thinking about new and cool ways that we can show our movies, especially now during this time when we'll have to get more creative. So there are many, I don't have a firm number on how many tech departments there are, but there are so many different ways that technology powers what Disney does. And we always say that if technology is done right, it is indistinguishable from magic. So.
Indistinguishable.
I love that.
Mike, right. You've said that many times, actually.
Yeah, I guess I ripped it off Disney. Yeah.
So do you see crossovers between these 2 different areas? Is that your job, is to see the crossovers and then say, hey, they're doing it over here, do it over here?
Yeah, so that's part of the point of the program is that, Disney hires people who are experts in what they do. And so you have someone who is the genius on animatronics, who is the genius on computer vision, the way that our computers see what we're doing when we want them to. And so a lot of what I do is help connect the dots between different departments and let them know if there's overlap, let them know how we could maybe leverage technology from one department in another. So that's been some of what I've done. But the truth is also that, hardware and software are becoming less distinct as 2 entities. So, a lot of what we do is also just more intertwined. So things that you might think are completely unrelated, like technologies that we use in our parks, you'd think what happens in Disneyland stays in Disneyland, and what I'm doing on Disney Plus are completely separate. But sometimes there are actually overlaps. And so having that awareness from working with multiple teams has been really helpful. And it's really interesting just how our world's getting more connected.
So how did you get involved with Disney? How did your career circle to where you are now?
Yeah, so let's see. So I majored in human factors engineering, which is like people-machine interaction or human-computer interaction. It's a branch of mechanical engineering, and I minored in communications and media studies. So kind of people, computers, and I guess business have been my three kind of areas of interest since college. And so that's been a really fun career path. So I started off at the New York Times working in user experience, so the way that things are laid out and designed. And then I moved into product management, which is more about leading a product to market, and then making it better when it's out there. So an app on your phone, or a website or whatever it is. And so I worked on, the New York Times came out with a virtual reality app that you stuck into a cardboard headset.
Yeah,
Great.
I've used it. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I was a product manager on that.
Oh, wow.
And it was, it was cool. And it also helped kind of, I guess, brand me as someone who was working on new and cutting edge stuff. Cool. VR was cutting edge then.
Yeah, right.
I guess now it's more normal.
They don't do that anymore, do they? That VR is no longer.
They still do it. Yeah, they do it. It's just, I think, less popular
okay.
than it used to be. But
right.
yeah, it still exists. At the time, we were thinking like, is the future of news in virtual reality?
Right.
And the truth is, no, it doesn't really need to be. But it was a cool experience.
Laura, if you had stayed with that, it might be popular today.
You're so right. You are so right. Yeah, I left, and that's the reason why it.
That's right.
Isn't it popular? Maybe don't quote me on that. But then I went to business school at Harvard. I actually applied as a college senior. I was an early admit. So I just always knew I wanted to go to business school. I thought, this is very versatile. And so I kind of combined my media tech and business interests to look at businesses, tech positions in media and media positions in tech, and just thinking that business would apply to everything. And this rotational program popped up. I did my internship at Apple with their App Store, and I thought about going back. And then this Disney position popped up. I'd never lived in LA. I was super interested in kind of going to the heart of media, having worked only in New York, where it's a smaller subset, I would say, of the media landscape. And so,
and it's cold.
And it's cold. So, so I thought, if not now, when? And so Disney moved me out here, and I thought, what a great opportunity to see 4 different departments over 2 years, just get as much experience as possible. I'm always trying to, optimize on learning. So I came out here, and then I've been rotating around the company, and I'm in my final rotation. So. And
then what happens after the final rotation?
So you start a full-time position at the company. So generally, it's one of the positions that you rotated around with, just because you know the team. But it just kind of depends also where there's headcount, where you're needed, and then what your interests are. As you were saying, technology is super broad. So, technology management rotation program has attracted a variety of different candidates. And so I'm mostly focused on innovation and product management, but there are some people who are very focused on data science. There are people who are, just strictly software engineering, who want to be leaders in that area. So there are just numerous areas where people can kind of excel through the program. So it's been really interesting.
Laura, when you were thinking about going into engineering, was that your focus when you came to high school? Was it, I'm going to be an engineer? What was your mind? Can you remember what your mindset was? I know it wasn't that long ago. So can you remember what your mindset was?
So
it's a long time for me. That's why I say
that. So the funny thing is, I went to a science and tech high school with Mr. Matthews.
Oh, right. Yeah. You went to STEM school, right?
Yeah, I did. And so that was kind of, I guess, my basis for exposure. But at the time, I actually thought I was going to be like a liberal arts rebel. And so I went to Tufts, a liberal arts school in the Boston area. And I spent my first year taking mostly humanities classes. And then I went on this really long run at the end of freshman year, and I realized that I really missed using like the math and science part of my brain. And so I went to the engineering building the next day, and I walked into a random administrative office and I said, "Hi, I'm Laura and I'd like to be an engineer." And they passed it up the flagpole, and within 24 hours, the dean of engineering had logged into my, to see which credits I had taken, and said, "Hey, if you want to graduate on time, you might want to check this thing out called Human Factors Engineering. It's kind of the best of both worlds. It's liberal arts and it's engineering, and you can take half your classes in both." What they don't tell you is then each half is like a full major's worth. But, you know, so I took half my classes in engineering going forward, maybe a little more to compensate for that first year without engineering classes, and then half of my classes in the humanities and mostly psychology. So human factors engineering can also be called engineering psychology. And so I took those kinds of classes and then started doing projects that I really loved, using sensors and 3D motion capture and all this other stuff. And then I just kind of, fell in love with it, and then met other people who, it was a very small major, but I met other people who had similar interests and who also were interested in media. And so then it was just a matter of finding positions that really combined all of my interests when it was time to graduate.
So before your STEM high school, were you always interested in math and science, and how did you end up going to the STEM high school?
So I think in our area, a lot of people knew about the STEM high school as being like, you know, a really good school, but also really fun. Like, I mean, if you're a nerd, which I was, am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
So great. So as fellow nerds, you could go to this magical mecca with other nerds. So I definitely wanted to be a part of that. Of course, also everyone's parents encourage them to apply. But also, do you guys know the game Challenge 24?
Yeah, the math game you're talking about. Yeah.
You still play it.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Okay, well, we have to play that. But so I was really good at Challenge 24 growing up. In fact, we had we had school-wide competitions in my elementary school. And so I was like class champion, and then I was almost school champion, but Yangbo kept beating me. It's fine. I've forgiven him since. So I never got to the regional stage, but that was like the first time where I was kind of like, hey, I'm kind of good at this. I really enjoyed those magic minutes when I was in really young, where you do like 100 multiplication problems in a minute. Yeah, I was really fast at that. And so just, I don't know, I think you end up liking things that you're kind of good at. So so it was like the little things that gave me that confidence.
So were you doing single digits, double digits, fractions, decimals, Challenge 24, all of the above? You have a focus
for the magic minute? For the
Challenge 24.
Oh, for Challenge 24. Oh, yeah. I don't think they had decimals back then, but they did have double digits.
Oh, they got a whole stack. They got a whole different. They brought in their.
Whoa, this is a whole new world you're opening me up to.
I think single digits are the most fun anyway.
They are.
But
it's fast paced.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I actually have a prototype of a mobile game that was partly inspired by Challenge 24. And if you really like doing multiplication and addition,
I do. Love arithmetic.
I will make sure, Laura, that when I get this prototype done, I will get in contact with Stephen and make sure that you get to test this. Yeah.
I would absolutely love to test it. Yeah.
So where does this lead?
Right now, I'm thinking that I'd like to stay with Disney for a bit. I've made all of these connections around the company, and so I'd like to, I'd like to leverage all those connections to really have a bigger impact. And so I'd that would be my top choice. But yeah, so now it's about finding the right fit. So I'm looking at product manager positions where the nice thing about rotating is that you get so much exposure, but I'm kind of excited to start a job where I will get to see something over time. So instead of this like 6-month race to try and make an impact and prove to people that that you've made a contribution and prove to yourself. It's such a short, 6 months is a long time as a student, but it's really short when you're an adult. So I'm excited to kind of sink my teeth into one product and watch it grow over time. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to next. Maybe Disney Plus.
Are you required to wish everybody a magical day during each conversation?
No, but
No?
I've probably used the word magical more than I ever would have imagined. And I feel like, even just working for Disney, everyone kind of starts to perceive things you do as like being so Disney about you, because I get that a lot. People say like, oh, you're very Disney, as if I have taken on the qualities of Mickey Mouse by like being a part of the organization. But
what are some challenges you've faced with the whole stay-at-home order and this whole pandemic now with the tech and creative side?
Yeah. Okay. So right now they're trying to figure out how to do so with temperature checks, trying to figure out how to reopen the parks in the safest way possible is kind of the number one priority. And so the research and development department, their job is to think about technologies, 5 to 10 years in advance. Like if you look up Stuntronics, they literally did a flying robot. But now they are being called on to think about the here and now. So we're taking some of our best talent and we're asking them to focus on how we reopen the parks in a safe way, and what novel technologies we can use to solve those problems. So there's some stuff about temperature, there's some stuff about using AI to figure out how far apart people are from each other so that we have a good idea of, maybe people don't even realize what 6 feet really feels, because you can't have stickers everywhere. People are going to move. You can have stickers, but not everyone's going to stay on them the whole time. So, so those kinds of problems are big. There's definitely, I think everyone knows there have been quite a few furloughs, and so we're all working really hard to bring those people back as soon as we can.
Sure.
That's also a big priority, and I'm sure plenty of people have been impacted by that. It was a huge part of the company, and we're definitely feeling it. There's a reason why we had the body of employees that we did, and so excited for those people to return. It's an interesting time. I think the company is seeing technology as a solution for a lot of its biggest, most pressing problems. And I know that not just us, but a lot of tech companies are figuring that out. We're tech second, maybe media and fun first.
Sure.
But Apple and Google are coming out with ways to know if you've been near someone who's been affected by the disease, and
Sure.
that you can be on the lookout. So, yeah.
Well, I have a very serious question. I need some kind of teaser on The Mandalorian. The season 2's coming out. I gotta know something. Come on, give it up.
I got nothing for you. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
Yeah. I got one. Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Oh,
What?
that, yeah. Well,
Sorry, spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say spoiler alert for our audience.
Sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah.
It's 40 years later, but.
But shout out to Shop Disney. They have some really great masks now with Baby Yoda and
cool.
like the Darth Vader.
So do you have any advice you could share with our students on how to pursue their dreams and anyone interested in your field?
Yeah, I would just say, it wasn't that late, I guess, because it was my freshman year, but it's never too late to kind of switch paths. And if you can change in high school, you can change in college, you can change after college. I have friends who, worked in the humanities after college and then decided that what they really wanted, and they liked that job too, but decided that going forward, what they wanted was to pursue a tech career. And so they did one of those coding boot camps, and now they are really happy as software engineers at their respective companies that kind of match what they did before they did the boot camp with that new skill. So it's never too late.
Yeah. And you never know what from high school you're going to use, right? Because you were thinking liberal arts all the way, and then you ended up using a lot of the STEM stuff you learned in high school.
Yeah, and I think, because everyone was doing science and tech, it lost its charm to me, because I really wanted to be different. And then when it was kind of taken away from me, I really missed it. And, that's okay too, to kind of, you're very impacted by the people you surround yourself with. And, if that ends up not being what you want to do long-term, like, that's okay. Or if you want to go back to it, that's okay too. Just kind of be open to, all the possibilities and focus on what you really enjoy, regardless of kind of how other people want to steer you. The other bit of advice that I would give people starting off is that is to not be dissuaded if you go to an engineering class and people don't look like you. I was one of 10 girls out of a 200-person engineering class in college, and never mind a person of color as well. So there are awesome organizations like Society of Women Engineers. There's NSBE, the Society for Black Engineers. There are all kinds of outreach groups, so you never have to feel alone if you feel like you're not being represented. So I highly encourage you to, pursue it if it's an interest of yours, despite what your idea of what an engineer looks like, whether that matches up with how you see yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's crazy. In a class of 200, it's 10 females.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And I had a pink computer.
Oh.
So I definitely did not blend in, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Laura Barnes, ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Laura.